Good evening, everyone. I hope you all had a great day today. I'm going to go over my daily plan and how the day planned out in this video. But before I touch on that, I should have done this yesterday, but I honestly didn't even think of it. Someone asked was for me to explain what these numbers mean and also the numbers beside. So this is called a footprint chart. My apologies. And this lets you dissect the candle a little bit better. So these numbers are transacted volume. This is contracts being bought and sold. So if I switch to this, at this price from 39.27 to 39.25 and 3/4, 6,302 contracts were sold when 5,978 were bought. Now, selling imbalance is red, buying imbalance is blue. Now you may ask, if there are more contracts sold here, why is this a buying imbalance and not a selling imbalance? And how I have my charts set up is you read this diagonally. So 5,978 contracts were bought over 759. It's a little bit different. It's just something you have to get used to. On the top, same thing, you have 2,229 contracts sold over, or under rather, 167 contracts. So that's a selling imbalance. And you could see once we had a buying balance here, the bid continued on into the next candle, forcing price up, buying imbalance all the way up, and then see how small these numbers here are compared over here. This is just exhaustion. And you could see once we opened the next candle, we went even higher and then finally pulled back. I hope that explains a little bit better how these candles are, or how they're read at least. So yeah, continuing on to my daily plan. I posted this morning at 8:03. We had NFP, important news for the market, usually causes a lot of volatility. Came out at 8:30, but I posted this a little bit before. All my levels are based on the order flow, the transacted volume, and also TPO charts, because you can't mess with transacted volume. It's not like something like a level 2 or a DOM, which people could trade on it very profitably. But there's a lot of spoofing. You may pull orders. This is all genuine, all orders that went through the book. Okay, sorry, rambling. But continuing on, I had 2 buy zones going into the day and 2 sell zones. My reasoning for these was, if we look on the footprint right here, this is a 4-hour chart up here. That is this right here. And you could see all the selling imbalance in red. I'm not sure, you probably can't make out the numbers, but the point remains the same. You have a lot of selling imbalance on the top, and you got a little bit of a bid. You see this buying imbalance, they're trying to move up, sellers are trying to move down. Now, what does that sound like, or what makes you think of that when sellers are trying to move down, buyers are trying to rise? That, on a candlestick chart, creates a wedge. Just something to think about. This really is dissecting the candles to get a better read. So to push on, underneath this buying imbalance and above this selling balance, what do you think is here? When people are buying here, what do you do when you buy? Hopefully, you put a stop loss, and it's going to be right under. Same thing with the sellers. So there, I was expecting a pop, a stop run. I buy over here, and then we pop back up to run those stops. That's all the market is, running stops back and forth, filling imbalances. So to continue with my daily plan, now looking at the TPO, we had single prints. Single prints is when price moves quickly, creates a single print, literally, in the TPO. And this is part of market structure, filling imbalances. Price, as I said in yesterday's video, likes to be in here, in value. It likes to trade. So when it notices, or when market makers, however you would like to word it, the market, when it sees that there's imbalances or single prints, there's structure that needs to be backfilled, it's going to go there, trade, put volume in, make it happy to trade here, and move on to the next area. That's all it is. So that was my daily plan. Going into the day, just another additional, You could hopefully see here that this candle is a hammer candle, closed red, doesn't really matter, but the close is up here. And you have a lot of sellers who were selling low, thinking this was going to continue lower. When this candle closes above them, they are all underwater. They have to force cover their positions, and look what happens to the next candle. Look at right here, just that huge rip. This is a 4-hour candle, remember, ripped on such low volume. And then sellers tried re-engaging here, and they got blown out of the water too. And that kind of helped me formulate this level as well, that there was active sellers here. So, once NFP came out, we blew right through that first sell zone. Now, the order flow on the footprint would help you better determine when your levels are being respected. It saves a lot of cuts, because it's not that these levels don't work, it just didn't work this time. As you could see, when it blew through, it came back, it actually held it. We had a buying imbalance. You could see this volume node right here built out, buyers, and respected it and came up. And eventually, 40.20, a little bit below, ended up being our high of day, where I took a trade, and I will show that in a bit. So I kind of touched on this already. I asked, or I showed a 4-hour candle with a footprint, and I tried to get people to look at where are the buyers, where are the sellers, who is underwater. Remember, this is still 15,500 contracts, 10,500 contracts being sold, and prices all the way up here. With the buying imbalance, all these guys are pushing the move up until the volume thins out. When there's thin volume like this, that starts to signal exhaustion. Another thing to remember. And we had a huge buying imbalance here, and you could see this is just maybe 10-15 minutes later. Sellers are working their way, they're eating away at the imbalance. You had that exhaustion up top, they came back, and now it's buyers' job to defend their position. If they can't, sellers will take control and they'll move down. So this was that same first buy zone. We came over it, as I said, with NFP. News digested a little bit, traders get themselves positioned. We came back into the sell zone, and just looking at even candlesticks, we came down, back into it, and you had this, was a doji, and continued down. So a lot of the times I won't play news. I actually almost never do. I trade from 9:30 onwards. I don't trade the pre-market, but nonetheless, this is a valid trade. Trading from there, you have this, it started to go down, obviously. Oh, my mistake. Let's go back here. So you got, I believe it was maybe 15 points or so in profit that way, and this gave you the perfect reason to exit. And it's similar to that 4-hour candle I was talking about before. Whoops. You have this wick buying imbalance, and look how the majority of the volume is done down here. Price is trading all the way up here. Let me clean this up a bit. This selling imbalance, and all these sellers here, they're having to force to cover their positions. They're driving price up. Let's see. So as we came up to 40.20, I pointed out this selling imbalance on the daily candle. You could see how this volume node is coming out. It's even bigger than this one, and it's coming up on this one, and eventually it did pass in volume. And I pointed that out because what you're looking at on a daily candle is for sellers to work their positions in. If you're trying to catch tops or bottoms or bigger moves, you need to make sure the right volume is on your side. You have to make sure that there's enough sellers to push price down, and that's very important to pay attention to. And we came up to 40.20, just below, and I believe this is a daily candle. No, it's a 4-hour candle, my apologies. And look at the selling imbalance. You have a P up here, huge selling imbalance. Most of the shares are done here, and 27,000 shares done under, I believe it's 3,300, 3,500. a huge imbalance, and that drove for a nice pullback. Or a nice pullback. That was actually the top of the day. This is where I took a trade. My selling zone started at 40.20, but I posted here. I actually sold at 40.17, and I front ran my own level. And that's just another spot where order flow comes into play and will tell you if selling is exhausted. And in that case, it was even before, just before the level. Wow, just checking on the market here. This was that buy zone I was talking about before. A little bit of live action right here. They lost it. You see no volume done here. Everyone who was dip buying over here, book got pulled, rug pull. All of them got liquidated. This was support. Now it's resistance. Selling imbalance right on the midline of this area that I pointed out. Sell. Came back up and actually gave another opportunity. This is called a zero print. This is another good lesson. See how light this volume is up here? A zero print, that's complete exhaustion. You have selling imbalance over here. Market makers probably popped this one more time, ran all the seller stops, sold into it, and then lifted the bid. But just to show why I entered where I did, I'm going to have to change monitors if I can. Maybe not. 1 second, let me pull this chart over. Bear with me, I apologize. Okay. There we are. So let me go to a 1 minute chart, and this will show why I entered where I did. So we had this push, and I believe this was the actual high day. And using the order flow, I got an imbalance zone at 1725. So I let this pull back, and I set my order in here. As I said, price likes to fill imbalances, little pockets of volume. They like to backfill it and then reverse off it, and you can get a move. So as this was my sell zone, I had an imbalance right below. That's where I placed my order. And I got filled right here. Ended up being the high candle of the day. And that's where we got the sell. Now for partialing, personally, when I'm 10 points in the money, I always pay myself some. And then from there, it's just systematic. At this sell zone, I took off, I believe, half of the remaining position. And then eventually, I cut this a little bit early at 39.50. I was getting a little antsy. Not perfect. I cut it actually right here as we came up. I thought I was a baller, got the bottom, and we continued down. But no worries. I was actually going to exit the position here regardless. So I hope I did a better job explaining myself today and what I look at. StockTwits, ChocolateLabTrading, I'll link that. I hope you guys all have a great weekend, Labor Day weekend. And yeah, I'll see you Monday or Tuesday.